issues for the 18. He's into the wall. Below the cut line to start the race. Kyle Busch never has been eliminated from this round ever in his career. Multiple cars wanting it up in turn 3.
The 99's in it, guys.
Look at the damage here to the 8. This is Reddick. Chris Buescher will win his second Cup Series race, and it happens in Bristol.
That's awesome.
I love this racetrack. I love the fans. I love every time we come here. It's so special to me. I don't know what else to say right now. I'm out of breath. This place will wear you flat out, and I love that about it, but it's such a special night.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Inside the Race, that show that digs deeper into the race we saw on Saturday night, the Bristol Night Race. I'm Alan Cavana, joined by two of the best in the business. From Motor Racing Network, Todd Gordon. From NBC Sports, Steve Letarte. We have so much to talk about. It was an elimination race, and just about every playoff driver, I think, tried to eliminate themselves at some point.
Well, there's so much information, I had to go to legal length. I mean, that's a full legal length pad of notes because it was chaos. From the booth, we knew the Bristol Night Race had the excitement. The fans were back. The crowd was amazing. But I wasn't ready for that. I wasn't ready for tires and mechanical and wrecks. And my calculator was on fire trying to figure out who's going to be in, who's going to be out. And then to top it all off, another non-playoff winner, Todd. I don't know what the odds would have been in Vegas, but I don't think either of us would be working today if we'd have had that bet.
I would agree with that completely. But really, if you looked at it, the 17 team, Roush Fenway Keselowski Racing, a great event for them. Both cars running very competitively, working their way forward. But so many playoff drivers that had issues, starting with Ryan Blaney early in the tire issues that we saw out of mostly the Ford camp, and then others having other problems as well. Just definitely, you would have thought base hits for this round. Nobody had a base hit.
Hey, listen, he got Roush, Fenway, Keselowski. It's RFK to me because I can't do it.
Too many syllables.
Too many. I don't have that.
We got to learn how to say them because they went to victory lane. We'll talk about it all. Here's what's on the box for today's show. Of course, we will start with Christopher Buescher. Takes 2 tires and the checkered flag. Wait until you see why those 2 tires were so valuable. We'll tell you. Plus, the chaos for the playoff drivers. The battle to advance turned into a battle of attrition for so many. It started with Austin Cindric, then Ryan Blaney, tires going down everywhere. We'll hit them all. And then, of course, the 4 drivers that are out, including 2 champions. Kevin Harvick is one of them. Kyle Busch is one of them. How blown engines and pit calls eliminated 2 champions from this playoff. That's the other end of the playoff grid. We're going to start at the top with the winner of Saturday night's race, Chris Buescher. Because from the start, look, he had a good car, drove a good race, but it took some strategy to get there, and he started right at the top.
Well, I think we can't overlook what we just said, which is a good car, a good race. Scott Graves and Chris Buescher, they won an Xfinity Series championship together, so they definitely have that rapport. They have continued to run well. I've heard some storylines as like a surprise winner. I feel that discounts. It's almost rude to what Chris Buescher has done this year with RFK because they've continued to run well. But Todd, when we look at their line graph, they did make some good decisions that helped us. And the first good decision, it's the easiest decision to make, or at least the easiest decision work-wise. It came very early, right? So he's right here at about 15th, and then he goes straight up the graph. That's because what? He stays on the racetrack. That got him his track position.
Yeah, definitely. Made the choice here at lap 45 to stay out, which is a kind of a gutsy call when you look at it, because you had a car that just had a right front tire failure that caused the caution, and it was a Ford. But not knowing where it was, I think made the right call, got themselves track position, and they ended up being, I think, on average, the second highest track position for the whole race because they got it, and once they got it, they kept it the rest of the day.
What gives you the information to make that decision, that you're going to stay out at lap 45 kind of no matter what?
Well, I think we saw it in practice. Tires didn't fall off, and then at the start of the race, there wasn't a lot of movement. I mean, he was stuck back there inside the top 20, but not really driving up with a very good race car. So I think it was easy to say I don't need tires to go faster. The challenge is exactly what Todd just said. Another car, a Ford, now I'm not an RFK Ford, but a Ford had a flat tire, went into the wall. That's why the yellow kind of came out. That's what maybe would have swayed that decision, but it was a great decision. And then flip it to win the race, another great pit decision to come down and say, you know what, we're not in the playoffs. Let's put the pressure on the playoff cars and only take 2 tires.
Yeah, fast forward, lap 439.
Yeah, definitely one of those situations. Your P4 coming to pit road, you've got to do something. You've seen track position all night long be a challenge for you. Scott Graves made a great call. We're going to put 2 tires on, get ourselves out in the lead, get ourselves out front, and then see what Chris can do with the rest of the race.
That's the best view you want. If you're going to make a call on pit road, 2 tires is great until you come off second. But when you come off the lead, that was great. And listen, congratulations to the 17 car. As I said, I love to see this celebration. They've earned it. They have had some good runs this year. This is a car that I think could have made the playoffs if they got a little warmer a little earlier.
I really feel like if you went back to Sonoma, they had a great run at Sonoma. And since Sonoma, they've been in the talk. They've been in the top 10. They've been in those positions. They just hadn't found the win that got them qualified for the playoffs.
Now, you could see it visually as a viewer. 2 tires worked all night. Chris Buescher was doing well. Brad Keselowski did so well by staying out on old tires. But we were able to break it down and really show the difference between Chris Buescher, who took 2, and I think the 9 that took 4 tires, and how valuable 2 tires were over 4.
Well, you put tires on to go faster, right? That's the idea. Fresh tires have more grip, they go faster. So I think the best way is to kind of compare lap times. And we're going to use the 9 because the 9 was the guy who ended up rolling around. He didn't start second, but he cleared very quickly to second. So this is a little bit different graph. We haven't showed this one. This is the lap time delta. So the point is very simple. Someone is flat, and that is the race winner, the 17 car. His line doesn't move. To be better than him, you want to be lower. You want to be down in this area right here. Well, if I get all my bad drawing off here, you're going to see that the 9 car's lap time is kind of just noise. Some slower above the line, some faster below the line. Todd, if 4 tires were going to win this race, we need to see some more consistent, faster lap times from the 9.
If you're going to see 4 tires win this race, you're going to see this trend here out of this. And we didn't see it. Tires did not make any lap time speed here, and definitely showed where getting in the track position, great call, and it wasn't going to be a benefit to take the extra time and the extra risk of putting left side tires on.
Now you can analyze that data a lot. You asked, like, why do you not take tires? I wish I knew exactly how every team did it. It's been 2014 since I sat on the pit box, just a year since Todd did it. But now we have engineers on the box, engineers back in the war room, so many different people. That can be good and bad. It's a lot of information. If it's the right information at the right time, you look like a genius. But I think I could get buried with some of the information.
Is that real time, starting from the green flag? Someone's processing all that and giving you the information so you make the final pit call?
There's a discussion weeks leading up to that about who's going to take that and what data gets brought forward. But yes, you'll have your engineers back at the shop. I did. Last year I had an engineer at the shop would watch. He'd plot an exponential graph and curve fit it and look at where that trade-off was going to be on pitting or not pitting and what we thought we had to have. The big caveat was how much of a penalty is passing cars, of getting packed by the cars. You can be faster, but if you're stuck at a one-group racetrack, there's a time penalty to that as well, of passing cars. So they did a great job here. Lots of information there.
Still crazy to me. I mean, it was so loud. The environments of these racetracks, especially Bristol the other night, it was so loud down on pit road. But kudos to Christopher Buescher. Kudos to RFK. Big win for Brad Keselowski, the owner as well. Kudos, you earned that checkered flag. Let's talk about some of the drivers you beat, including Christopher Bell, because both you guys agree every week we see a car that's the fastest, that doesn't win, that probably should have won. Christopher Bell was that car on Saturday night.
Yeah, he was my pick because he was already locked into the next round, just his approach. And I love a guy that admits what a race means. And Christopher Bell says, there's no track I like more than Bristol. There's no race I like better than the Bristol night race. Add that with having a good year, and all the way through I was going to have momentum. And they did disappoint. I thought he had the best car.
Yeah, I did too, and really called a great race. Had a great strategy all day long to keep themselves in position. Just didn't execute it at the last opportunity.
Yeah, so when you look at Christopher Bell's strategy, to his point, when tires don't mean anything, the other thing you do is you just don't pit as often. And Christopher Bell kind of took a little bit of a risk if you look at his line chart, right? So he's going to come down pit road. He's going to come down once there. This will be a second stop. He has a third stop right here and this fourth stop. That's it. He has a fifth stop that ends up being right here, but that's only because he had a flat right rear tire. That's what ended up costing him really the race in general. I think the big call for me was really, it all came into light right here, right? So he stays on the racetrack, and that's leading, going in this direction right here. That's a big call because he's getting close to running out of fuel, getting close to needing a caution. He would rather lose this race by not getting a yellow and pitting under green. He was fortunate, he got the yellow, and then unfortunately though, a flat right rear tire that set up the final pit stop that messed everything up or gave Chris Buescher the opportunity. But the best car without a doubt, just heartbreaking. Fortunate though, man, that yellow came out really quick for Christopher Bell.
Yes, it did. Yes, it did. And really, he only lost one position in this piece. Kyle Larson got by him here, but he's P2 coming to pit road after this caution. Just didn't execute from there. Pit crew lost 3 or 4 spots and came off pit road like 6th.
Yeah, I mean, best car, fastest, best strategy. Those are the kind of days that you want to get off the box when you have it all going for you, and then it goes wrong.
And to the point, they took a gamble on going long there. We're near their fuel window, but that's a situation when you know you're guaranteed through to the next round. You can take that risk. You know, it's easier for Adam Stevens to make that call than it is for, say, somebody who's down there in that points battle to the cutoff line.
Yeah, to your point, though, those are the tough ones that what would you do different? And when you don't have at least 2 or 3 things to do different, and, you know, it's easy to say, well, they had a flat tire, maybe they had a setting wrong, but maybe they just ran over something. We didn't see a whole lot of rear tires go down. So, man, yeah, those are the ones that really sting.
Christopher Bell, one of the drivers that got away from the 20 team. Let's talk about another one, the 4 car of Kevin Harvick. Harvick had one option coming into Saturday night, win and win only if he wanted to advance. And kudos to them. They were in position at the end of this race toward the front of the field, doing what they needed to do, at least being in position to get a checkered flag until the final caution.
Well, listen, everybody's going to say the mistake of the 4 car was a bad final pit stop. I don't believe it was. I think the mistake was even coming down to pit road. So we take a look. Christopher Bell gets a flat tire. We're inside about 75 to go, and we're going to freeze it as these cars come onto pit road. We know who's leading, right? It's the 5 of Kyle Larson, ready to go. The 20 of Christopher Bell in second. We know he has to pit. He has a flat tire. Look right there. You know who that is? That's the 4 of Kevin Harvick in third. Look who's behind him. That is the eventual race winner. Kevin Harvick said it in his interview. I don't know what to say. We came in front of the 17 car. I think if you come in, it's 2 tires only, but you have a different opinion.
I think we should be staying out.
Never should have happened.
I like that.
If you look at it, you've got to win the race. You've been in a situation earlier in the race, you've run 140 laps on a set of tires. There have been several cars with right front failures. That's got to be a concern. But you're looking at this right now, I've got to win. And why wouldn't you stay out and take the lead?
Well, because here's what happens. You roll it forward, right? And also everybody comes down pit road, and now mistakes galore. 5 has an issue, the 11 has an issue. We all know the 4 has an issue, but the most important part is stop right here. This is the restart. Your all-star, your quarterback, the most valuable guy on your race team is Kevin Harvick. You know what you've done right here? You have taken the ball out of the man's hands. He's done. Game over. There's no chance Kevin Harvick wins that race. Now, it's easy to say a clean 4 tire stop, maybe he's in the front 2 or 3, maybe he passes for the lead. Well, that would be the second one we saw all night long, which would have really shocked me. So I just think that the 4 tire call is what hurt the 4 car. I can see the argument most weeks, but you're in a must win. You have to win the race. You have a good car. You've done about everything you needed to do. I think you had to kind of give your guy the track position.
And no matter what, there's a risk factor to pitting.
There is, but you look at this, to your point, this guy right here and this guy right here, that's 4 tires on 2 Hendrick cars.
Right, they're not bad.
They didn't beat him. And
they
his teammate, the 17's teammate, Brad Keselowski, stayed out through the whole first stage and won the stage on 125 lap old tires. So the precedent's been set that tires don't make a difference here. Track position does. I think the 17 called a great race, and I think the 4 car should have been more aggressive.
I mean, more aggressive with the pit calls. I mean, that's what it's going to take. And I think we're going to see it as the playoffs continue. These guys are going to, they would rather lose it being aggressive than just kind of follow in line and not be good enough.
Yeah. Well, you know, pit stop, people are going to blame the pit stop, and maybe it was the pit call coming in regardless. So another driver, another champion we were worried about on Saturday night was Kyle Busch. Now, we all saw Kyle Busch's engine blow up, but that wasn't his only issue in the first round of this playoffs. There was a path that put him in this position.
Well, we're the 3rd race, so let's go back and think about this, right? We started at Darlington. It was a blown engine for Kyle Busch running inside the top 10, looking like he could perhaps even win the race. Riding around on the yellow, the engine's expired. Now you go to Kansas. I don't blame that one on the car. While I didn't drive great, I kind of put this one on the driver.
Agree with that. And spun out here, got down the grass, just had a kind of miserable day there. And then to come back to Bristol and have another motor failure. The only reason why we're talking about Kyle Busch being in that cutoff position that we're going to talk through here, right there on the borderline, is the stage points that he scored in these races. He finished 1st and 3rd at the 2 stages at Darlington before the motor failure. He scored some stage points at Kansas before he spun out there, and he scored stage points early at Bristol. He had 36 stage points, and that's part of what kept him at least in the hunt here.
Yeah.
36 stage points in 3 races is really, really impressive.
Yeah.
14 at Bristol, but In the end, he didn't make it, and he was eliminated by a Team Penske car.
Yeah, well, and we saw him doing that walk there. It was a very interesting walk.
I thought you were going to get him. You were right behind him. I saw you had the mic.
I was right there. Kyle Busch wasn't taking that helmet off. But what was interesting is as we're making that walk, I mean, we all assume Kyle Busch is out, right? Blown motor. And as of that moment, I think he was 5 points out, the broadcast said, and the math was working out. But as we're doing that interview, as I'm asking him about it, total chaos starts erupting out there on the track with a lot of the playoff drivers. Suddenly, there's a scenario. Suddenly, there's a possibility Kyle Busch can still make it in when all this starts happening.
Yeah, so he's 5 points above Daniel Suarez, who, by the way, drove a heck of a race because that car looked really hard to drive most of the night. He gets looped around, and you see the cars get piled in. The 8 of Reddick is in it.
The 3 of Austin
is in it. The 99 is a playoff car who spun out. But this so this did two things, right? To your point, Kyle Busch can't run any more laps. He just wants everybody else to finish the race. Now there's an opportunity for points to be had. We have to go back to the beginning of the race. The first car who had a flat tire was the 2 of Austin Cindric. And I'll admit, once he had the flat, I said, well, it's been a good year for Austin. He won the Daytona 500, but this is going to be an uphill battle. The team never gave up. They continued to work. The nose of this car, I'm not even sure where it got smashed in, but it got smashed in at one point. But it became clear from the TV booth, Todd, he needed to find a few points to eliminate Kyle Busch.
Yeah, definitely. And the word for that team was persistence for the day. It seemed like had the tire issue earlier, ended up having a timely tire issue in line with Christopher Bell's at the end of the race that didn't cost him positions. But from 400 to 500, he still needed to make points. And he found 5 positions to go get.
Yeah, we could show it on the graph exactly how he did that. Because Austin Cindric has to find these positions. Kyle Busch has to worry about the other cars. Let's show you how Austin did it, though.
Yeah, so he found 5 spots, and who did he pass, I think was the interesting part. I think it was well documented that his teammate, the 22, fell out, but he's only one of these. Every step in the graph is a position. So the first one, and I know, Todd, you have the notes, but the 78, he got him pretty early.
10 car was next.
Yeah, so now we have the 10 of Eric Almirola. Now he's got 2 points. Now he's about tied. At the same time, poor Kyle Busch is losing spots because Ryan Blaney, the 2 teammate, fixes his car, passes. So now the finish line's moving. But now we're going to give Cindric another spot. Third car, he passes the 22. It's his teammate, was in a wreck already. He retired from the race. And then he went 2 for 2 with the Petty GMS cars, getting the 42 and the 43, plus 5 points. He ended up 2 points above. There's a little bit more math in there because we had Blaney.
Yeah, as you said, as he's making spots on the track, there are other things going on that are affecting Kyle Busch. So we have video of it for Ryan Blaney. It's part of his. That's affecting Kyle Busch and the points and the standings as well.
Yeah, when Blaney had his flat tire, he had right rear damage. They did a nice job of clearing the clock so they could come in and repair this. It took heavy right rear damage. The one that kind of scratched my brain, couldn't get around, was the 45.
Bubba, yeah.
I know the 2311 is not Joe Gibbs Racing, but he is a Toyota car who has had a steering failure. I am not a big fan of team orders. I like to see race car drivers race for wins. But I thought that was a very easy point that 2311 could have gifted the 18 of Kyle Busch by just not going through all this work. Just beat traffic. Just go home. Help your teammate over in the Toyota camp out.
I think the caveat here, the 45 is still racing the Owners' Championship. And guaranteed through, they already got the win, so they're through this round. But you're accumulating the points you want to because at the end of the year, if you don't make the Final Four, you're still racing for 5th. And I think, they're so focused on trying to get every point they can towards advancing as far as they can in the Owners' Championship in case they don't make the Final Four.
I'm not a nice guy. I would have lost my mind.
We
if
still
I was
like you, though.
Teams. I would have. I'd have lost my mind. I'd like, why are you making this hard? I know I've helped you over the course of the year. I'm not asking you to fall out. I'm not asking you to change your outcome of your race. Just go home. It's a bad night.
Yeah.
There are times in the past that we would have fixed that to make laps to put it on the truck, just to know that we could do it if they got down to a position where we had to. But there is some glimmer of a reason why they would do it.
Yeah, so there was the Blaney issue, there was the Bubba issue. I think Logano pulled off at one point. All those things affected where Kyle Busch finished and how Austin Cindric was able to stay in the championship hunt. He finished 7 laps down and in 20th position. That's what you get for fighting all night. And we showed you those cool driver comparisons. You can see that stuff as well, the driver comparison tool. There's a cool feature on the NASCAR app and on NASCAR.com. You can watch that during the race. Make sure you check that out. One more driver I want to check in on, the 8 of Tyler Reddick, because a lot of people saw Tyler Reddick as a legitimate title contender. but found trouble in round one, found trouble Saturday night at Bristol. What do you think about his first round and ultimately Saturday?
So it was just a couple points. But in the end, the 10-minute extension, went from 6 to 10 on the crash clock, is the only reason he even was able to stay within a couple points. His team did everything he could do. Sometimes, I don't think he did anything wrong. He was in the wrong place at the wrong time. I mean, look at what they had to deal with. To get this fixed inside the 10-minute clock, the team impressed me. This 18, to have the parts ready, to have a plan, Todd, I didn't think this car was going to get back on the racetrack.
Yeah, I thought they did a good job in getting him back to the point where they could survive for the rest of the night and see where it went. I think ultimately, when you look at this, had one of the fastest cars at Kansas until he blew a right rear tire in stage one. And the difference between him and in a situation like Kyle Busch had 36 stage points. He was single digit in stage points.
Wow.
Because the failure happened early at Kansas and really didn't put that many stage points up in Darlington.
I also think when I think Tyler Reddick in Bristol, I think back to the spring. I think at a certain dirt track incident where Tyler Reddick could have had 5 extra points here, Todd.
Yeah, this is 5 playoff points, to your point, going away, getting in a wreck with the 14. It's really a 10-point swing because the guy who won this race, Kyle Busch, was the one he was trying to chase. So I hate to go back and could have, should have, but I had that same thought standing in the booth looking at the same racetrack, although this one was covered with dirt.
Yeah, it's a.
You don't forget these moments, Todd.
And as a crew chief or a driver, when you get cut out by 1 or 2 or 3 points, you can look back to 10 different situations during the year that this is just a very pointed one because the car you're chasing is the one that got those 5 points.
Well, we know the field going forward. Let's take a look at the playoff standings because 4 are no longer going for the championship, including 2 of the former champions. So we're going forward without Harvick, without Kyle Busch, and without a contender like Tyler Reddick. Chase Elliott back to the top, just like that.
Well, he's back to the top, but I think this is one of the toughest rounds. We have the Roval, we have Talladega, and I believe that Texas is one of the most important races in the entire playoffs because if you think you're good enough to make Phoenix, then I think you think in that round of 8, man, I'm going to run well when we get to Vegas, when we get to Miami, when we get to Martinsville. I'm scared to death of Talladega because somebody else's mistake can catch me up. And while the Roval is a road course and fast cars still matter, heck, it could rain. Anything can happen at the Roval. So if I can win a race, other than the championship race, the most important race in the playoffs for me is this coming race at Texas, win, advance, and just take a nice 2 stressless weeks at Talladega and the Roval.
Sounds easy, right, when you look at that grid?
I would agree with a caveat. I'd put Vegas ahead of Texas just because that's the one that can guarantee you in and let you focus on that Phoenix race for 3 weeks. But Texas, with what you've got coming up behind it, and as crazy as the first round was that we thought it should have been the base hit round, I can't imagine what this second round is going to be like.
Got to go out there and hit some homers. You can start this weekend at Texas. The next round starts on Sunday, 3:30 Eastern on USA. It's going to be a good one. As Steve said, it might be the most important race of the playoff because it sends you to 2 stress-free weeks. The Auto Trado Echo Park Automotive 500, again, Sunday, 3:30 Eastern on USA. What a good show this was. Can't wait for next week. We will be back. He's Todd Gordon, Steve Letarte. I'm Alan Cavana. We'll see you next week on Inside the Race.
This year, see more. The full field of in-car cameras,